Welcome back to the Retro Gamer Boy Show. I'm Mike, and today we're going to do our first Q&A for the Retro Gamer Boy Show. Now, I started the Retro Gamer Boy Show back in, July 2018 is kind of when everything coalesced into an actual channel with a name and an identity. So that's over 3 years ago. So it's been a long time. I've not really done a Q&A. I don't know who would be interested in it. So I've always been nervous about doing it. Like, I'm always surprised that people watch the videos, but who wants to listen or ask me questions? You know, I kind of definitely suffer from that imposter syndrome. But it's been amazing. I've been absolutely blown away by how many you ask questions. I thought I'd get maybe 4 or 5 questions at most, and then I'd have to kind of do like a small little video that I put out during the week. But we got nearly 50 people asking questions, which is absolutely stunning. I'm really humbled by that. Thank you all for your questions. I'm going to try and answer all of them in this video. We'll see how we do. I just want to say again a big thank you to all of you. This community is so amazing to be part of, the retro gaming community. Everyone here is so respectful and just here to share their love of retro gaming, or for the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis. It's amazing to be amongst you guys. Right, so the first question comes from Rock and Roller RC, and he asked, or she asked, am I first? Well, you're definitely first in the Q&A session. Yanisbik, Sega or Nintendo? So I am a big Sega fan and a big Nintendo fan, but I think the platform or the publisher that pulls on my nostalgia strings the most has to be Sega. Paul Hughes asks, any other hobbies? Yes, I do have other hobbies, although gaming pretty much dominates most of my life. I'm a very creative person. I'm an artist. That was my original kind of professional skill set that I have. So I do a lot of digital art. I do a lot of physical art. I help out at local schools where I kind of build them displays and models for the libraries that they have there. So I really enjoy doing that. I enjoy sport, although as I've got a lot older, I'm not as capable of doing the kind of sports that I used to do. And I love longboarding. So I have a longboard and I go out and cruise around for a little bit when it's not raining here in the UK. Rock and Roller RC again asks, what's my favourite game and why? Oh my God, I hate answering this question. There's so many games that I love for different reasons. And there's a game in here for every year of my life, which has been my favourite game for one reason. Or it's my favourite game because it reminds me of something, or it's my favourite game because of how fun and how it's been built. I think the closest I've ever got to saying what my actual favourite game of all time is probably Breath of the Wild, which is a modern title. Zelda title. So you know how much I love my Zelda stuff. But that's come the closest to me actually saying, oh, I think this is my favourite game of all time. But again, as time goes on, I kind of then remember other games that I've loved or played. And so I don't think I have one single game that I would call out as saying this is my best. Love the Wipeout series, love the Zelda series. There's tons of RPGs that I love playing. I'm just trying to look along here. There's just so many games that modern games like Ratchet and Clank, loved playing those. Alien Soldier on the Mega Drive. There's just too many. I think my mind's going to melt if I think about this question for too much longer. Retro Players asked, what is your opinion on Mr. and FPGA? For me, it's the perfect solution for retro gaming. I really like the advances that's been happening with FPGA. I think it's a great piece of technology for retro gamers. I haven't got anything in my room yet that is FPGA, but in the future, I definitely want to get like an all singing or dancing system that does it, just to kind of alleviate some of the pressure on my systems that I have, especially on the Mega Drive, Mega CD and 32X. They get a lot of play time in them. As these consoles become more expensive to buy and pick up, I don't really want to have them being destroyed or worn out. Although you can get them fixed, I kind of want to have one of those systems where I can just take some of the load off of these old consoles. And I capture footage from these old consoles as well. And at the moment, I have a really convoluted way of doing that. I have to use line doublers and all sorts of cables to get it to work. So getting one of those systems would make that a lot easier for my videos. 2D Pixel says, to when will I collect? I don't think I'm ever going to stop, to be honest. It's not like it's an addiction, but I just like collecting games and playing them. Like, at the moment, I get hardly any time to play a lot of the modern games. My PlayStation 4 collection is one of the smallest modern collections I've ever purchased, just because I've been running video game studios for the last 10 years, doing that, doing YouTube, my family, just really restricts my time to play some of the more modern titles. So I guess I'm going to be collecting a lot of the modern titles and playing those back. Kind of looking forward to retiring at some point, so I just have copious amounts of time to sit in this room and play tons and tons of games. But I don't think I'll stop. Maybe at the point where I'm not able to actually go and buy myself games anymore, it will be a natural stop. But I don't intend to stop anytime soon, for sure. Big Game Owl asks, who is better to work for, Sony or Microsoft? Good question. Fond memories of both. Both did very different things for me. Sony was my first career move into the video games industry, and I was there for 12 years. And I built some absolutely stunning things. Some things that some people love, some things that some people hate. And I got a ton of opportunities there. And I saw my career go from like junior all the way up to, studio level. Microsoft was very different for me because that's where I got the opportunity to build a studio with two other talented guys from scratch, and run that studio. So it was a very different experience. I guess though, for like fondness of memories, is probably Sony. It was very cool working for Sony, especially at the end of PlayStation 1. All the way through PS2, beginning of PS3, and also then helping to define and talk about what we would do with the PS4. So that was probably the most exciting time that I had in the games industry. Tons of parties, tons of crazy things that happened during that time. Obviously a lot younger, a lot less sensible. So did some insane things. But yeah, I'd say Sony is where I have the most fond memories. Zobster, the infamous Zobster, friend of the channel. What is your guilty pleasure game? What is my guilty pleasure game? I think my guilty pleasure, it's almost like a genre rather than a game, is anything that's crafty. And I don't mean sneaky, but things like Minecraft, Little Big Planet, all those kind of games. I love crafting games. I sink hundreds and hundreds of hours into things and then just move on to the next thing. Like Minecraft, I've been playing since... Minecraft I played a month... I got Minecraft a month after it was released. So I've been playing Minecraft from the beginning all the way up until now. And I just dip in there and I'll spend 30 hours in there. And then I'll go away. And then I'll come back again and do 50 hours in there. And then I'll go away and I'll come back again. But definitely a guilty pleasure. It's a genre of game that I can really lose myself in. Find it kind of really relaxing to just kind of build and craft things. And again, it kind of arcs back to the things that I enjoy doing, which is building and creating things. Rock and Roller RC again. What is my highest score on Astro Wars? I never owned Astro Wars. My friend did, and I did play it, but I have no idea what that score is. It was a cool little machine, but yeah, I can't remember what that score was. Not very high, I think, is the answer. Eric Hannibal asks, how successful was the 32-bit Amiga CD-ROM console in your country? Now, the Amiga was a massive success in the UK. My friend had an Amiga. I had the Mega Drive and Master System, and I was always a little envious of some of the games that he was getting. Even when they came over to the Mega Drive, we got a simultaneous-ish release on the Mega Drive. The Amiga was always that little bit better. But the Amiga wasn't. The Amiga CD32 wasn't a successful console overall. But I would imagine that the UK would have eaten up a lot of the sales worldwide. It was a console that a lot of people had in the UK, or at least a brand that people had in the UK, and they did love that. So I would think, either the UK or maybe Germany, one of those two countries would have kind of had the majority of sales. John Bundy says, is it worth getting the 32X? Yes! For me, it is worth getting the 32X. I love the 32X. I don't really love it for the games. There's like 3 games on there that I love. I love Virtua Racing. Oh my God, I loved Virtua Racing. I was bringing modern arcade games into my room. So that was absolutely stunning to have that. I had Doom running on it, and especially after seeing it on the SNES, I couldn't afford to buy it on my SNES when it came out on that. So I definitely bought it when I had the money. I was a little bit older, I was earning, so I could buy the 32X version of Doom, so I got that. I enjoyed Metalhead. It's not a great game. I really enjoyed Metalhead though. And Star Wars. I loved Star Wars. So there was only like a handful of games that I owned on the system. But there was I've got a real sense of nostalgia for it, just because I think the reason why I came to consoles from arcade was I was getting arcade experience in the home. And I think that's what the 32X gave me that feel of. It was almost like the 32X was a nostalgic feel again for where I moved from playing and hanging out in arcades and coming to console. The 32X gave me that nostalgic feel of doing that again. So it's kind of weird. I've got nostalgia for the 32X because it gave me nostalgia of a time where I moved over to console. Hypertrigger EX, awesome name there, asks, what genre doesn't float my boat? I think I'm going to have to say Football Manager games. I really like football. I enjoy watching football. I enjoy playing football games. But no, Football Manager games. No. I mean, I've tried them, and every time I try them, I just don't get on with them. And I think what's made it worse is I'm picking up Football Manager games, obviously, for the Mega Drive collection. And I always, every game I pick up, I play. Some I play for hours, weeks, and some I just play for, I'll have a quick session on it. And I can never manage more than 15 minutes, especially on the old ones. And I know they're better. And I think the last one I played was on the PSP. But I just, I can't get on with them. And Matt Nielsen has a long question here. What is the scope of your PAL Mega Drive collection? UK releases only, or European releases, including variants such as multiple country-specific releases of FIFA, Road to World Cup 98? Do you include all the Swedish rental releases as well? What about the Australian releases, some of which are basically just imported Genesis titles? He'd be very interested to know where I draw the line. I have no line. I have no line. I set myself goals, right? When I like, right, I'm going to collect the full Mega Drive collection. Actually, the thing I said is I'm going to collect every EA game in the Mega Drive collection, because I'd done a video on EA games on the Mega Drive, the 16-bit Sega console, and I was just amazed at how many there were, and decent titles as well. So that was my original goal. I was like, actually, as a kid, I always wanted a full Mega Drive collection. Well, not a full Mega Drive collection, but I just wanted all the Mega Drive games, right? Stupid childhood kind of dream that everyone has, is just to have a room full of games. So I thought, actually, I'd love to collect all the EA games. And that just kind of spiraled to like, oh, actually, if I'm going to do that, why not go for a full Mega Drive collection? I don't know if I'll ever get to these goals that I've set myself, but I really enjoy just discovering more about this collection that Sega had. And yeah, as I like the FIFA games, as I realized they were cover variants, I'm like, I wouldn't mind having those cover variants, actually. They're like, I'm not going to play them. They're no different to the other ones, but I'm very much that completionist, oh, I gotta have it kind of mentality. And, they sit on the shelves, and I just love looking at these games. I will come in, look at this Mega Drive collection for half an hour, 45 minutes. Doing nothing, literally just looking at the spines. I really, really find it relaxing. I enjoy looking at it all. I get waves and waves of nostalgia as I look over these games. So I don't really, I think, have a line. Like, I've just picked up the 2 NHL games from Sweden. For great prices as well, actually. I thought they were going to cost me a lot. I picked up one of those Genesis variances that you mentioned that were released in Australia, the Tony La Russa baseball game. I picked that up with the little sticker. All it is a sticker. It's the Genesis game, but with a sticker. So I've got that. So I don't think there's a line. Whether I'll be able to get them all is a different question. I enjoy the act of collecting. I don't really enjoy the act of buying. There have been points in my life where I could have just easily bought everything. When I finished a game and a royalty check comes in or something, I could have just bought everything. That doesn't interest me at all. I like going out into the wild and finding things or finding a deal. Getting to it and finishing it early isn't my goal. I know some people absolutely love that. Completely respect that. For me, it's going to be the journey. And I hope it takes me another few years, because I enjoy kind of discovering new games and chatting to people who are interested in collecting as well. So yeah, there's no line. There's no line for me. Hemp Hog has a statement more than a question. You should show Mega Drive gameplay of new games, not arcade demos, if you would. So this is referring back to my ZPF video, where the demo that I show in that is PC. Now I thought I'd made it clear that it was the PC footage. But what I'll do in the future, Hemp Hog, is I'll make sure that I call out that if it's PC footage. The thing is with showing you brand new games is that most games development doesn't happen on the end consumer hardware. It happens on usually computer software on things like PC and Mac. And so there's no real opportunity to kind of show you it actually running on hardware, because most of it's developed on PC stuff. And all these new games that I show you, I'm kind of showing you early, and they're early builds that are built on things like PC. So a lot of it is emulation, PC emulation, which hopefully transfers over to the final console. With ZPF, I was actually telling the story of ZPF and how it got there. And at the point where the demo came out, it was still a PC game. And then the footage I showed afterwards was the Mega Drive footage of the game. So I hope that clears that up. I'll do better in the future to maybe label this stuff out so you know exactly what kind of footage you're looking at. But it's unlikely that I'll be able to always show footage on target hardware, just because of how the development process works. Michael Cleland, what was your biggest regret when collecting? Did you ever let an item slip by? Oh my God! Whoa, this question. Oh, yes, I have regrets. Yes, I've let stuff slip by and continue. I have not learned my lesson. I continue to let stuff slip by. Recently sold my development kit of my PlayStation 3. I said to myself, I've got to be content that I'm going to regret this. I know I'm going to regret this, but I sold it to fund more Mega Drive games over there. So I got to a point with myself like, okay, I'm happy to do this. I know I'm going to regret it. But there's been others. I sold a Neo Geo early on. The Neo Geo is the console I want to have in my collection. I've coveted that console since I was a kid. One person I knew as a child had it when it came out. One, and he only ever had one game for it. But again, I'm an arcade guy. I grew up in the 80s in arcades. Stranger Things, that was me, except without the monsters, in the arcades. We had like one or two consoles at home, but I didn't really play them. When the Mega Drive came out, SNES came out, that's when I kind of moved over. And the Neo Geo was the thing that I was like, this is it. This is the future. So I got one later on in life and then sold it almost immediately for something stupid. I think it was like to fund a PS2 or something like that. I sold it for stupid money as well. So that's a game that console that I'd love to get back in the collection, and one that I really regret. And then there's games that I've regret selling. Some I knew that I would regret selling. So I recently, this year, in fact, I sold the entire Shining series on the Sega Saturn. I knew I'd regret that. But there's an opportunity maybe in the future to pick that up again. And there's a few games that I've kind of regretted selling, and then games that I've let go. Salil, you'll hear Sega Head mock me about this all the time. Passed that up at 60 because I thought it was too expensive. Passed it up at 90 because I thought it was too expensive. Passed it up 120 because I thought it was too expensive. I just keep on passing on this game. It's a game I absolutely want, but I keep on passing it up because I'm like, that's just too expensive. Why is it that price? I should probably just buy it so it doesn't go up in price, with me anymore. So that's one that I keep on letting buy. And then Snatcher, I had a damage. My copy of Snatcher got damaged. Like, I think it was like my kid stood on it. I think my daughter stood on it and just wrecked it. Destroyed everything. Disc, cover, manual, just got absolutely wrecked. And And it was available for £60 to buy at the time when this happened. And I passed it up, and now it's hundreds. So, getting Snatcher back in the collection is going to be a long time coming. Thomas Bates asks, what's the hardest thing you've had to sell to buy something else? I think, like I said, the PlayStation 3, the Shining series was pretty tough to sell. I just forgot. I had a Donkey Kong development cartridge, Donkey Kong Country Game Boy Advance development cartridge that I sold. I would have loved to have kept hold of that. But I used that to help fund some of the Mega Drive collection. And again, could probably buy a lot of the Mega Drive collection now, but I like to have some skin in the game. If I'm going to buy this stuff, rather than take from the mouths of my children, I kind of want to feel like I'm part of building this collection. And some of that is selling old bits of my collection off to fund new bits of the collection. So probably those development pieces that are extremely unique, one-offs in the world. Selling those have been hard to do. The one asks, do you experience video game burnout, and how do you deal with it? Also, how do you manage your budget when buying games so you don't break the bank? Great question. Do I experience video games burnout? I don't think so. If anything, I want to play more games just because I don't have much time at the moment to play games. Literally, I've got my job. I'm in games still, obviously. That is 60 hours a day. 60 hours a week easily. YouTube's another 20 hours on top of that. Then spending time with kids leaves me with a very, very small amount of time to play games. Now, how I used to manage it in the past is my commutes are always long. It's like 2 hours each way is my commute. No matter which game studio I've worked at, I've always had to do a 2 hours commute. And that's where I've actually managed to get in like 4 hours of gaming every single day. But of course, with things as they are, I don't have that commute at the moment, which is awesome. But it just means I start work at the time that I would normally start commuting. So I am missing out on playing games. So I've not really experienced burnout. I'm kind of experiencing withdrawal symptoms. And then how do I manage my budget? I have a bank of wife who tases me every time I spend any kind of money. So that's pretty much how it's managed. Something that I have tried to do is become more self-sufficient with funding my hobby. YouTube helps to an extent. Every month I'll get a little bit of money from YouTube, maybe £60 here, £70 there, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing that advertising on YouTube generates that bit of money. That helps fund one or two games. Some games I'll sell, especially like when I said I wanted to buy Alien Soldier, that was 600. Not really fair on the family for me to just go, here, I've spent £600 on an old game that none of you care about. So that one I sold stuff to purchase. And then other times I'm just careful with my spending. I'll have a limit on what I want to spend, and I won't go beyond that. And then other months I'll look at it and think, well, we've got birthdays coming up, so I'm just going to not buy anything this month. It's pretty hard to do, but just a little bit of self-control and a wife with a big stick help me keep it under control. Neo Geo Ninja 81 asks, to date, which is your favourite aftermarket Mega Drive game, and which aftermarket Mega Drive game do you consider to be the most accomplished? Wow, this is a great question. So I do love my aftermarket games, indie developed titles and homebrew titles. I would say, let's go to the most accomplished one. I would say, I haven't got it yet, and there's been a lot of controversy around it, but I'd say Paprium has to be one of the most impressive games that I've seen run on a Mega Drive. And not just because of its visual specs, but also its technical specs, its integration with the Mega CD, and the way it's integrated itself with the Mega CD, with that, using it for as two-player AI is quite a technical accomplishment, regardless of what's happened in the past, all the drama around that game. That is a technical accomplishment which is going to be hard to match, and for someone to put in that much effort and produce that is amazing, regardless of everything that went on around it. Outside of that, I really like Demons of Asterburg from NeoFid. Impressive for those guys. First video game they've made. I've been on a call with them, talked to them about their game. really impressed with what they've done. Really, really impressed with what they've done. I can't wait to see what they do next. I hope they carry on. I know they've set up they had a main business that was tech focused. I know they've set up a second business, which is the NeoFid gaming arm. I hope they continue it because it is really impressive. And my favorite to date, I'm gonna have to say either Xenocrisis or Demons of Asterborg. Although, if I ever do get my copy of Paprium, which is still on order, if I ever do get that, then I love beat-em-ups. I do love beat-em-ups, so that may pip them. But those two for sure, Demons of Asterborg and Xenocrisis, love playing those. I've probably put in about 60, 70 hours into Xenocrisis. All the extra hidden game modes, boss rush mode, survivor mode, love playing those. I haven't finished Demons of Asterborg on the Mega Drive. Finished it on Steam, haven't finished it on Mega Drive yet. I'm about halfway through, so I am enjoying that. So that is definitely, if not alongside Xenocrisis, it's a close second. Michael Cleland again. What would be your dream game to work on? A current game or an original game idea you might have? I want to make a Mega Drive game. I know I can make a Mega Drive game. I just need to convince people to work with me to make a Mega Drive game. And I need to get the time to make a Mega Drive game. And I have got some outstanding ideas that have been working on for the last 5-6 years. One of them is an unofficial prequel to Golden Axe. Shows you how Death Adder came to be Death Adder. It's kind of your hacking slashy gameplay of Death Adder. A little bit of RPG, store, multiple route. Think of, the return of, was it Death Adder's Revenge? Think that kind of thing I want to achieve with, as close as I can with the visuals, big sprites, a combo system in there where you can bounce people off of things and juggle them. So that's one idea. There's another one that I've been working on with the Retro Refresh guys. Very slow because there's everyone's very busy, but bouncing ideas around a cyberpunk themed game for the Sega Mega Drive. And I've made AAA games my entire career, so I know that I would build alongside this the Nintendo Switch version, the PlayStation 5 and 4 version, the Xbox version, the Steam version, because that's how you have to fund it. The Mega Drive would be, though, like the collector's edition. That would be the passion project. Everything would be built to Mega Drive specs, and the Mega Drive would be the ultimate collector's edition. Everything else, maybe it gets a limited run physical collection or it's digital, but ideas for that. And I'm probably one of those guys that go over the top. I'm so bad, I'm lucky I'm not in charge of house finances or anything like that, because the thing I'd want to do is like the top tier thing you would get is like a custom Mega Drive painted up, themed with all of the gubbins around the games, and there's a ton of stuff I'd do for that. But I'd really, really want to do a Mega Drive game, and I will do a Mega Drive game at one point. I just got to, the right people in the right time need to fall into place. So Gunnar Plays asks, if you could have worked on any game during your career that you haven't worked on already, what game would you have liked to have worked on and why? Very good question. I think I would have liked to have worked on the Witcher series. I love that series. Talks to things that I like. As a gamer. Also Little Big Planet. Love crafting games. I really love the first Little Big Planet. Number 2 is really good as well, but I love the mechanical nature of Little Big Planet 1. It felt very hands-on. I'd love to have worked on that. To be honest, there's a ton of things, but to be honest, definitely the Witcher series is one that, as a developer, super exciting. Really exciting, really challenging game to create, and I'd love to have been part of that. Alan Hendricks asks a great question. Will your family, children, inherit your collection one day when that time has come? So yes and no. So yes, that was the idea. And then I told my daughters, like, make sure your mother doesn't sell my collection. You got to keep hold of this collection. She said, don't worry, I'll look after it, Papa, for you. I'll only sell some of the games. What? No, that's not the answer. Fail. No, they'll get this. And they can sell it if they want to. I have said to my wife, if anything does happen to me and you do sell it, I'd love it to go to a collector. You know, whether it's an official collection or whether it's an enthusiast, I'd love it to just go to someone that will get as much pleasure out of these games as I do, right? I look on this shelf and I don't know how much I've spent on it, and I don't care how much these games cost or how much their value is, because they're not going to go. They're not going to be sold. So yeah, that's the only ask I had is, you're not going to sell it. Why would you keep it? So yeah, sell it, but please make sure it goes to a collector. Boxright asks if I've got any more information on the Getaway getting a remaster, or if there's going to be a completely new game in the works. I have no information, unfortunately. Most of the people that worked on the original game, Getaway, have left Sony. I think at Sony London, there's only 2 original members of the Getaway, and those guys are in management positions. So there's no real original members of the Getaway that would be there to make it. Will Sony do another one? Probably. They'd be fools not to. But like I said in my video, it's going to be a hard thing to do. And so I would imagine they would, rather than do a remaster, which is not out of the realms of impossibility, but I think rather than do a remaster, they'd probably do a new game based on the Getaway. And that could be a completely different type of genre for the Getaway. Like I said, I think the Uncharted series would work really well. A lot of people really like the open world, the backdrop that they had in the Getaway, and would still like that. I did do a similar remake, so I did the Mafia remake, which is exactly that. It's exactly the same as the Getaway in terms of what it was trying to do. Cinematic storyline, gangster, with an open world as a backdrop. That's exactly what the Getaway did just a few months before Mafia. So it's absolutely possible. Whether Sony have the appetite to do that or not, I don't know. JJ Van Ease has a question. Which MD game do you really like as a youngster, but disappointed when you played recently? This is quite easy because I found this with 2 games actually. 2 games that I absolutely love and still love, even though I'm a kind of little bit like, oh, this isn't aged well. I still enjoy and I still love and still have a lot of nostalgia for. The first one is on the Mega Drive, and that is eSWAT. I love eSWAT. It's a stunning game. But I did have rose-tinted glasses when I played it 15 years ago compared to when I played it maybe 3 months ago. Especially those first few levels. After that, some of the nostalgia came back, but I forgot how difficult it can be in places. I completely forgot how difficult it could be in places. I had this impression that I just breezed through the first playthrough when I first got it. Maybe because now I'm older, I just have less patience or don't have the kind of memory muscle in my fingers anymore. But that one, a little bit disappointed because I was so enamored with that game when it first came out. But still love it. Still have a lot of nostalgia for it. The other game is actually not on the Mega Drive at all, and that's Resident Evil 4. Loved Resident Evil 4 when it came out. Played it again on the GameCube. Oh my God, it's dated. Oh, what is this? Still, again, something I love. You know, all the sayings in there. You know, what are you selling? Love all of that kind of stuff. But when I played it just really dated on me fast. So those 2 games, specifically eSWAT on the Mega Drive. Retro Raider, what is your favourite licensed Mega Drive game from back in the day? And what is your favourite homebrew Mega Drive game from modern days? Greetings from Portugal. And I game a lot, my friend. Awesome. Greetings. Well, we've covered favourite homebrew. Favourite licensed Mega Drive game? Oh, I don't know. There's so many I love. Phantasy Star series. I love the Phantasy Star series. Sonic. Streets of Rage. Alien Soldier. Turrican. I know that wasn't Sony developed, but you know, on the Mega Drive. Love Turrican. Street Fighter 2. I love that. A lot of the Konami games. Love those. There's just too many. Too many, dude, to kind of pick one game and say it's that. I mean, I'm looking at the shelf now. there's probably 120 games there that I love to play. So when you got that many, picking one is torture. Right. Michael Cleland again. Very interactive, Michael. How much do you reckon your collection is worth? The whole games room. So this is interesting. I had this same question from Essex Retro Gamer. I went on and did a chat with him. It's really hard to say because games go up and down. You know, a game could be worth thousands one day and worth, you know, hundreds another day. We constantly seem to be in some kind of bubble. You've seen the video I've made on the Mega Drive stuff at the moment. So I find it really hard to say. I did do an evaluation once on my room where I kind of looked at eBay prices and selling prices, and I got a couple of things valued, and it was getting close to about £100,000, maybe over £100,000. But there were like one or two items that made the majority of that, right? The signed copy of Zelda from Miyamoto-san when I met him in London. I've got the photograph of him signing it. I've obviously got the game, and I've got it nicely boxed and presented. That is worth an absolute ton of cash, apparently. And then if he passes away, which I hope he never does, that would jump astronomically in price. So I've got things like that are worth a lot. I've got some very unique development things in my collection. I don't want to sell any more development things in my collection because I've really got down to a bare minimum that I'd want to keep. But I've got some really rare one-offs. But it's hard to put a price on those because some people love them and would pay for them. Other people couldn't care less about them. The Mega Drive collection at the moment seems to be worth an absolute fortune for some reason, when some of these games probably aren't worth nearly a quarter of what they're going for. So, you know, it's hard to tell at the moment. The last time I realistically, though, did a price up, which I don't really do often at all. It was coming close to about 100,000. I think maybe it was just over 100,000. Give it 4 years and it could be worth like 10 grand. Could be worth 4 grand. Could be worthless if there's some law that comes out banning video games. So yeah, I find it hard to value, and I don't really go back and look at a game and go, that's a really expensive game. I know the appeal of owning an expensive game. It's really kind of like, wow, that's a really expensive game. Like Streets of Rage 3. I looked at that. I was like, I've had that since it came out. I bought it when it came out. And I think it was like a year ago. I was just looking through things and I saw how much it went for. I was like, what? It was kind of like, wow, that's really cool. I've got a really expensive game. But overall, I don't really get too caught up on the cost or the valuation of my games. He says he's got about 100 grand's worth of stuff. 66JD, what's your fondest memory of collecting, or do you have a crazy story surrounding gaming? I don't think I've got I've got crazy stories from where I've been a games developer. I've got some insane stories. I don't think they're safe to tell on this channel, but fondest memory of collecting, definitely going to stores. I love going to retro gaming stores. Can't do it at all. There's no retro gaming stores around me whatsoever. Every time I seem to find a new one, it's closing down or closed down. I live on the south coast of England, and it's almost devoid of retro gaming stores. There's like one or two up there. There's CEX. That used to be an amazing store for Mega Drive and SNES and all that kind of stuff. Don't do much of that at all. Maybe like a handful of games. Most of it is kind of last generation games they do now. So my fondest memories were going to these shops, hanging out with people, talking rubbish about old video games, browsing through these collections on the shelves, and then maybe picking up one or two. Those are my fond memories. I'm hoping to build some more fond memories. I'm starting to go to retro gaming meetups. Never done that before. Starting to go to retro gaming markets. Never done that before. Went to the Birmingham one. It was a bit of a solitary experience, that one. I would have loved to have met more people. I think I met like one or two people. And then they didn't want to bother me, and I didn't want to kind of take them away from buying games. But I'd love to have some more interaction when I go to these shows. So if you see me at one of these shows, come over and chat to me and let's talk about old video games, because I would absolutely love that. So Regan Dow asks, what is it that you do in the games industry? You've talked about working in the business, but I've never heard you be specific. I'd love to know this. Thanks. What is it I do? So I've done a lot of things in my career. My career has been in AAA, top-end first-party publishers. I started off in the games industry as a 3D, 2D artist. I did the faces, so the character artwork for This Is Football 2002 at Sony. That was my first kind of break into the games industry. Then I was one of 2 car artists on the Getaway, did all the car modeling, texturing, also did some of the exterior building stuff as well, but mostly the cars. And then I stayed an artist all the way through Getaway Black Monday. I worked on a game called the Getaway Online, and that became PlayStation Home. And when I was in the team that was pushing PlayStation Home, so we were a small team, maybe about 7 of us, I decided I wanted to move into production. And production are the guys that help keep the direction of the project on course. They set the roadmaps, they do the planning. They really are the people that kind of coordinate how a game is built. And that really is the thing that I found exciting. I enjoy my art. I enjoy doing that. And every game that I've made, my artwork is in it in somewhere. Even if it's a little thing, I get some artwork in there. But I moved into kind of that planning, production, direction, all that kind of stuff. And then I worked my way through the ranks of production, assistant producer, senior producer, until at Sony, I ended my career at Sony as the development director for London studio. It's overlooking franchises, very strategical, as well as kind of being a mentor for new developers, people that are coming into the industry. I finished my career on that. Then I moved into building studios, and this is kind of where my career is now, building and running studios. So Microsoft, I built their first London Xbox studio called Lift London. I was the studio director there. Then I went on and actually set up my own business with 2 other guys, and that I was the CEO of. Artist, designer, when you're 3 people, you wear all the hats. Then after that, I went to work for a studio that partnered with Ubisoft, and I worked on For Honor. And again, I had a kind of similar position. I was head of production, but I did a lot of the studio stuff as well. So helping to grow the studio, build it, set the strategy for it, as well as kind of getting involved in the games, how we build the games, how we plan out the games, all that kind of stuff. Then on to 2K, same thing again, helping to build the studio, setting the strategy for multiple studios and how we would work together. A little bit more challenging, that role, because of the people and the logistics around it, but same sort of thing. And now I'm a studio head, and I actually head up a retro gaming, the biggest retro gaming cloud service. So I like to be at the forefront of technology. So I work for Antstream, and I build the studio, set the roadmap. I get involved because it's a small company. I get involved with the design, art, recruitment, strategy for the business, and yeah, like I said, I there's days where I just sit down and design new features, new pages, design artwork, all that kind of stuff. So this one is probably the most fun role because I get to do everything. It's like a summary of my entire career in one job. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. What will I do next? When this adventure's over where I'm currently in, I don't know. I might go back to AAA gaming for a bit. It's nice to have a break from it. It is really intense. But that's what I do. A long answer for a short question. Halazing Retro Gaming, can I have your PS1? No! Oh, although I know the answer to that. Seriously, what's the coolest piece of dev merch in your collection? The coolest piece is I have a email with notes on it from Miyamoto-san where he's talking about Star Fox on the GameCube. He's talking to the guys at Rare and giving his feedback. I actually have a video where I read out that email and the notes alongside it. For me, that's probably the coolest piece of dev merch or dev memorabilia that I have in my collection. EOR 2B4 got 10. I'm sure if I read that out perfectly, that would say something. But I'm old. God, my brain can't process it. If you had to play the same Mega Drive game on a 12-hour live stream, which game would you choose? Great question. I would probably choose a role-playing game. and I probably would choose something from Mega Drive. So maybe one of the Phantasy Star games. I could choose I was thinking maybe Alien Soldier. It's not a role-playing game, but maybe Alien Soldier, just because it's so hard, and I would fail over and over again, but I don't think that'd be really entertaining. So probably, I think I'd choose an RPG, and play through the RPGs, because if I've got 12 hours, which I never have, if I had 12 hours, I'd want to get some real game time in there, so I'd definitely probably do an RPG. Dylan Woodhall asks, if you had to write a story for a new Getaway game, what would this story be like? And what new features would you add to a new Getaway game? Well, that's a good question. I think what I would do, story-wise, is I would have Mark Hammond as a mob boss. And I think I'd flip the table. So everything he was against, he becomes. So he becomes almost like Charlie. He's this guy in a world that's changing around him. That old school gangster's died from London, but he's become that old school gangster. I'd probably have the story centered in around his child. What else would I do? I'd probably have his child maybe like in the Middle East, not in the Middle East, maybe in somewhere like Russia, and he's got caught up in, the crime scene as well. And not Charlie, Hammond has to go over there and kind of get his son out of some rubbish. But, I like the idea of flipping things around on Hammond and the things that he didn't want to happen to his child and the thing that he was trying to get out of in the first place, he becomes. And for him to kind of almost be a relic in this new world, and then end up having to kind of jump even deeper into it and rescue his son. And in terms of new game mechanics, 3Cs, character, controls, camera, all of those would be massively improved. I'd love to do some more exploratory stuff where you could go up on roofs, do rooftop chases, go inside of buildings, maybe bring some of that Uncharted gameplay in there. Still have the open world stuff, but, more of that clambering system in there. Josh Nicholson, I think it's awesome that you're active with your YouTube comment section. Shows that you're really in touch with your viewers. Thank you very much for saying that. I was curious, what will you do once you complete your Genesis collection? Sorry, Mega Drive collection. I'm thinking of all the associated things with the Mega Drive, all Sega CD 32X games, and Master System converter, Master System set. Great question. I don't know. Once I finish this set, I'll finish the UK one. I'll probably go finish the PAL because I'm already actively working on that. I'll probably start on the Mega Drive collection as well, the Genesis collection. But what I might do is go less full on like I am now. At the moment, I'm just buying for the Sega Mega Drive. I'd probably start to dabble, bring in the Mega CD, bring in the 32X. There's a load of games on PS2. Start growing the NES game. I think I'll broaden. I'd love to get a full Mega CD and 32X collection just so that this console behind me is fully complete. I love collecting all the peripheral stuff, justifier guns, extension cables, mouse. I love all that kind of stuff. Definitely after the karaoke machine. So that's another thing I want to get on there. So yeah, I'd love to kind of be able to say, hey, look, this is a really nice collection of Sega Mega Drive stuff. And just because I love it so much. But I'd also like to build out some of the other collections, not complete them. I'm not interested in a full SNES collection at all, but I love the SNES and want to collect some games for the SNES. Same with the Saturn. Not interested in a full Saturn collection, but would probably go in there and buy some Saturn games. Maybe go for the Japanese, collect more Japanese Saturn games. But yeah, I think I'd broaden the number of collections that I collected for. Doug Ferguson wants to know, if my YouTube channel gets big enough, would I want to leave my game developer job? Or do you love that too much? Was YouTube always only meant to be a side project? Correct. YouTube is always going to be a side project, I think. I mean, never say never. But I love games development. I love the people in it. I love making things that millions of people play around the world. I'll always be in gaming. There's no other job for me in the world. Literally, I can't see myself doing anything else. I don't know how I would do anything else but work in gaming. So, it might be that I move away from the limelight as I get older, and, have less stamina, and move into more comfort roles. Like I said, I would love to build a Sega Mega Drive game. Who knows, maybe in the future that I've got a small studio that makes retro games that work on modern consoles, but also these old classic games. So that's more where I'd like to go. I still want the YouTube channel. It feeds my passion. It's the only way I really get to meet and chat with people that like the same things I do. So for me, this is really just me being part of a community. My YouTube channel is me being part of a community and chatting with you guys. So that, I think, will always be the side thing. But never say never. We never know what happens in life. So yeah, plan, stay in gaming, but possibly it could be, but I doubt it. Michael Cleland has another question. Michael, I need another subsection for you. I should have the Michael Cleland section here. Is game development a real pain in the bottom? Is it really long hours, tight deadlines, stressful environments that we hear about? Yes. And no. Some studios do it really well. Some studios don't do as well at it. I think those studios that really embrace production and project management and have good producers and project managers working with them can reduce this significantly. There are studios that I've worked with where people do not appreciate this or understand it, and it goes horribly wrong. And there are millions of studios around the world that get it right and get it wrong. But there is always something. We're creating often something from nothing. We have to come up. We don't know what we're going to make. We've got to make a new game. What is it? If I think about my Mega Drive game, I've got some ideas, but I don't know how it's going to play, what the camera's going to be like, what the mechanics are going to be like, what bugs we're going to get. And when you're creating something that's very creative and new, but needs money to do it, you're always going to have a deadline. And that deadline is, for the most part, driven by cash. Now, there's obviously indie titles that do it for nothing, and they're passion projects, and they take years, and they come to fruition. But for 99% of games development, cash is your limiter. And so as you get closer to this cash running out, so deadlines get tighter, stress kicks in, things need to be done faster. Regardless of how good your production is, regardless of how good your planning is, it's just an impossible task to get these games out in a stress-free environment without doing some extra hours here and there. Unless you have a low ambition. If you've got no ambition, you're just doing it to get it out there. You could do it, but most of the time, if you're trying to create something special, something new, then even if you're self-employed, you'll end up doing these extra hours towards the end, as that money runs out and as that time kind of looms. It's natural. It's natural with anything where you have to produce something from nothing. Daily Retro wants to know what the weirdest thing I found in a game box is. I found a dead spider and spider eggs in the spine of a Mega Drive box. I opened it up. I think I've actually got it on Twitter, or maybe I've got it on Instagram. And inside of these, that yellow sack of eggs, some cobwebs, and a dead spider. Thanks to whoever sold that to me. You need a Tic Tac. That's a great username. Do you collect for Saturn, particularly Japanese Saturn? It's my favorite to collect for. I haven't actively been collecting for Saturn. I did collect for Saturn. I will once I get the Mega Drive collection out of the way. I'm going to build out that Saturn collection. Whether it's Japanese or European or stateside, I'm not sure. To be honest, I quite fancy going for the Japanese stuff. When I look at the Mega Drive Japanese collection, that's awesome. And I'm not massively up to date on Saturn. I know about it. I know the history of it. I know some key games on it, but it is a collection I'd love to learn more about. And that's the thing I really find that I enjoy about collecting, is that you find out stuff. You learn the history of a console, of a development team, of a certain game. So it's definitely something I want to do. Will I go hardcore into it? I doubt it. I'll probably build up some of the games that I'd really like to get. But I probably won't spend the same sort of money I spend on the Mega Drive collection. Duncan Keppenar, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Will you also be reviewing new retro gaming hardware accessories like the Sega Saturn controllers from Retrobit, 8-Bit Duo, and the like? Are you still active in the gaming industry? Thanks, Mike. Yes, I'm active in the games industry. I think we've covered that now. I always will be. I've done some hardware stuff. I did previews on the Polymega. That's out now. I'd cancelled my order long ago. I might pick it up. I've done Retrobit reviews on their joypads. I think I would do more. I haven't done that many just because a lot of my spare cash is going, the money I can spend is going into the Mega Drive collection. So I don't really have the money to kind of splash out on some of the hardware. Once I get to that point where I've got a little bit more spending, I might do that. Maybe, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how these tech review channels do it. Maybe they get it given to them. No one's offered that to me, really. I think maybe one or two pieces have. So I think I'd have to buy to review first. But it's definitely something I'm interested in doing. Okay, Mus247365. How many Mega Drives games do you have now? Would be good to see an update count each time you add to the collection. That's a great idea. I'll start doing that. It's interesting because the collection is kind of branched in multiple different directions, because I have cover variants, I have ROM variants, I have obviously UK PAL, European PAL, Australian PAL. I'll start to get Genesis and probably the Brazil exclusives as well. How many have I got? It's probably easy to say how many I need. I need about 190 more to complete a full PAL, excluding the Brazil exclusives. But a full PAL collection, I need 190. And then on the homebrew scene, there's a lot. I don't know. I think I've got about 12 homebrew games, and I think there's in the 80s for homebrew games. So there's still a long way to go, which is great. I love that I've still got the flexibility of like, I can only spend £20. I'll spend it on this game. I'm not limited to just the super expensive games yet. William Burbridge asks if I've got any aspirations to learn things like Unity, Unreal, and make my own game. He'd love to know. Well, we've talked about it. I'd love to make my own Mega Drive games. I know how to use Unity, and I know how to use Unreal. Super simple tools to use, to learn. You can code a game in minutes. You can have a first-person shooter up on Unity in seconds without even doing any kind of coding. So, yes, but to do the Mega Drive, it's all about C or assembler if you're that hardcore. So I think the challenge is going to be learning about the old hardware again. Getting onto new hardware is going to be relatively simple and easy. So yes, I want to make a game of my own. I'd love that to grow into a business at some point in the future. At the moment, I'm really happy where I am, and that sucks up most of my time. But in the future, for sure, definitely. Arcade Pilot! Haven't seen you for a while, sir. Do you think that you might do another sequel to the Getaway? I remember you felt disappointed how the game was, or perhaps a remastered release. Yeah, I'd be open to working on another Getaway. I had a good experience on the Mafia remastered or definitive edition. I had a good experience there, so I think I'd enjoy going back and working in that environment. The Mega Drive, the Getaway, the original Getaway was a hard game to make. And that's because we didn't really know what we were making until the end. I think I've said this before. We got an A bug through while we were in the beginning of beta. And the A bug, I think it was from the head of QA, that said, this game has no gameplay in it. And it was true. That we submitted a game to QA beta, which is like you're supposed to have everything there, that had no levels in it. They had like 1 or 2 levels. Levels were missing. Cutscenes were unfinished. The Getaway was one of those games where it was a real rush at the end. It's amazing we managed to get it out at the end, because the technical effort to get it just to a point where we could start putting gameplay was mammoth. First game that streamed interior to exterior without any loading times across the city. Real-time damage systems in there. Wheels would actually deflate and go down. There was just a motion captured animation system, cinematics in there. It was just the complexities and the things that we were trying to solve with the Getaway was so huge that took up probably 80% of maybe even 90% of the whole development process. And then the last 10%, that was all just trying to get the game finished. So I think I'd like to do it now. I think modern development practices would lend themselves to more enjoyable experience. But back in the day, it was pretty hellish. I didn't leave the office 1 week at all. I stayed and slept in the office underneath my desk in a sleeping bag. And in fact, in my entire time during at Sony working on the Getaway games, I had a sleeping bag under my desk because I knew I'd have to work like till 4 or 5 in the morning to get the game done. Gitanu or Get to Know. What will you do when you finish the full Mega Drive set? Sir, I'm going to collect the Mega CD and 32 sets. But like I said earlier, I think I'm going to broaden out a bit and start collecting some of the games that I've missed out on and wanted to play. Would love a full Mega CD set and a 32X set, like I said before. Being able to do a video where I show this thing behind me and show everything. Well, I probably won't be able to do everything. I'm not rich. But, show a ton of stuff that came along with it. I'd love to do that. Love to be in a position to do that. So definitely Mega CD and 32X are on the collector list for me next. Rogie Retro Gamer, how are you doing, sir? When you accomplish the UK Mega Drive set, then the Euro, then maybe the Jap set, then the World Mega Drive set, what's next? And would you be looking to thin out your collection of other titles you own already to assist with the cost towards what you need? And help with space, of course. Enjoying following you, Mike. Thank you very much, sir. Enjoying chatting to you and learning about your massive collection. So we kind of answered what I'm going to do next. Would I thin it out? I think so. I don't know where I'd thin out from, though. I'm finding it really hard because I've kind of got rid of the games that I'm happy to get rid of to pay for the Mega Drive stuff. And now I'm finding it difficult to think what I would get rid of to help pay for it. So I think if I did have to thin out the collection again, I would struggle a lot. And as for making more space, oh my God, I know, I need more space. Hopefully the kids move out soon and I can expand into one of their rooms. And our last question, and it's a brilliant question from PH Piano Cover. I learned by studying music professionally a saying, the best way to ruin a hobby is to turn it into a profession. How do you deal with it? Do you still just play for having fun? It's a great question, and for some people this is absolutely true. For me, it's not. I am in bliss 24/7 almost. Going in and solving the problems of gaming, whilst it's gaming, are very different from playing games. I think what it does spoil is your own game. The game that you work on, it spoils. There's very few developers that come out that I've heard or met that come out and go, I love my game that I've made. I can't wait to get home and play it and finish it. Because they've spent 2-3 years making it. You're pretty sick of it by the end of it. All the politics that go along with it, all the frustration of the creative process, all of those things kind of just make you sick of your own game. So I would say it doesn't ruin your appetite for games. Making games, if anything, gets you more into games, studying how people have done things. There's so many options in gaming. I've been making AAA games for my career, but I come back and play old school games. Very different from the games that I'm making. So there's lots of different releases there. But there are, and I'd say this is a majority, there is a majority of people in the games industry that make games and then don't go home and play games. So there are a lot of people that don't mix the two. For me, though, I love it. I love going to work, talking about and making games, coming home, playing games, coming into this room, filming about games. It's something that I've been laser focused on since I was a teenager. It's like, this is it. I'm going to just throw myself into gaming. I love it so much. I'm going to throw myself into gaming. I want to be as successful as I can in it and anything I do. Whether it's a YouTube channel, about gaming, I want to be successful at that. Making games, I want to be successful at that. Building teams, I want to be successful at that. I am success driven, but at the same time, the thing that's driving me to be successful is something that I love. So that's all your questions. That was a long time. Hopefully you guys watch through this or skip through and see some of the answers to these questions. I really, really enjoyed this. Like I said, I am so humbled by these questions that you've asked me. I honestly thought I'd only get a few. And again, I think that's just, the imposter syndrome I have is, I kind of feel like I'm faking it all the time. But seeing these questions, it's amazing that you you guys have so much interest in what I do and also in the collection here. So I hope to do maybe in a year's time we can do another one. But I love this kind of interaction here, being able to talk to you remotely, and I'd love to do more of it in the comments. So again, any of the videos that were put out, please feel free to leave a comment in there. More than happy to answer all of your questions. If you're watching this and you didn't see your question in here, I'm sorry. I had to kind of draw a line at which point I would start answering questions so I could film this. I'll definitely answer, though, your question in the actual comment as well. So until our next video, I'll see you all later. I don't know what to do now. Oh,